President Biden goes all in.
Let's keep building the economy from the middle out and the bottom up.
As he defends his budget plan in Las Vegas. After 34 years behind bars in Broward County, an innocent man is finally walking free. And trouble this morning for large animals.
The number one threat to sharks is overfishing,
who call our coral reefs home. These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Hello, South Florida. I'm Hawa Ezel.
And I'm Julian Davis. Today's Thursday, March 16, 2023.
Live from the South Florida Media Network's Biscayne-based studios in North Miami, this is SFMN Newsbreak.
President Biden leaving Las Vegas. He wasn't there to gamble yesterday, but to pitch his budget plan to Americans. The president talked about his plan for accessible health care.
Reporter Rachel Costa from our D.C. bureau is in Washington, D.C. this morning.
President Biden visited the University of Nevada, where he said he's focused on strengthening Medicare and lowering the cost of prescription drugs.
But after decades of trying to take on Big Pharma, we finally won. Now, instead of paying whatever the drug company wants to charge you, Medicare will be able to negotiate prices.
President Biden highlighted all the policies his administration has passed, including the Inflation Reduction Act that helps ensure companies don't raise prices faster than inflation, and spoke of successfully getting companies to cap insulin costs to $35 for seniors on Medicare.
Let's finish the job. Let's protect the lower prescription drug costs for everyone. Let's expand health care for more people to get care. Let's keep building the economy from the middle out and the bottom up.
During his speech, Biden says some Republicans are determined to block health care programs that can help Americans, such as the Inflation Reduction Act, and want to continue to fill the pockets of Big Pharma. Republican leaders obviously disagree. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy argues that the president's budget proposal isn't going to pass.
The president's budget is not serious. It's not serious for the current time we live in. High debt brings inflation. And what happens with inflation? You see with this bank, interest rates moving up, where they're stuck in bonds and others. We watch the pain that it causes American citizens. This is not a serious budget, and real leadership matters here.
Most of the president's plan for health care depend on the approval of his new $6.8 trillion budget proposal, which has been heavily criticized by Republicans, who are a majority in the House. Reporting for the South Florida Media Network, I'm Rachel Costa from Washington, D.C.
A man who had served 34 years of a wrongfully convicted 400-year sentence in Broward County has been released. On Monday, just after 6 p.m., 57-year-old Sidney Holmes walked out the Broward County Jail and into the arms of his family and friends. His 1988 armed robbery sentence was vacated as he was found innocent earlier this week.
Newly released body cam footage shows the moment Miami-Dade police rescued a young boy who was trapped in a submerged car. Last month, the boy's father was driving when he swerved and ended up in a canal. His father was able to escape, but the boy was left behind. An officer reports the water being so murky that he had to locate the boy with his sense of touch.
Ecological dangers to our coral reefs also spell trouble for the marine life which depends on them. As the network's Abdul Jabbar reports, it's led to a decline in sharks and rays.
Coral reefs are suffering serious climate change, and animals such as sharks and rays are in via of extinction. Shark and ray extinction will have a huge impact on other species, increasing coral reef ecological implications, most of which will be difficult or impossible to restore.
The number one threat to sharks is overfishing, either through people fishing for sharks purposefully for consumption, or for bycatch, which bycatch means accidentally catching sharks.
According to AFP and Natural Communications, 18 species of oceanic sharks has declined by 71% since 1970s.
Past 30 to 40 years, we've had drastic declines of coral reefs around the world, which might cause us to lose these habitats and lose all the important creatures that live on them.
Along with pollution and climate change, intensive fishing is reducing food sources for many animal species, resulting in habitat loss. If actions are not taken to improve shark and ray conservation on coral reef, the implications could have serious impact on these ecosystems and for hundreds of millions of people. For South Florida Media Network, Abdul Jabbar.
NASA released a study confirming many scientists' speculation that climate change is worsening floods and droughts. Reporter Sofia Zuniga has more from Washington, D.C.
Two NASA scientists made that determination by comparing satellite images from the past 20 years, and now they have an idea of what the future may hold.
We have a much better understanding now that going forward into the future, if the world continues to warm like we expect it to, then it's also very likely that there will be more frequent and more intense droughts and pluvials.
Dr. Rodell explained that with increasing temperatures and warmer air, the air can hold more water, causing a dry land to dry even faster. On the other side, during wet events, the warm air holding water can transfer into another region and increase flooding. The study comes as California faces record rainfall and flooding, leaving 100,000 residents without power. Turkey is now also facing deadly floods after the earthquake. Tropical zones such as Florida and continental zones, including some countries in Europe, will face more frequent wet events, while tropical and dry zones, including parts of Africa and western United States, will experience more intense droughts.
I think it's important to recognize that this study isn't a one and done. I mean, it's really important to continue to monitor how the water cycle is responding to climate change, so that that'll help us to be more prepared and more resilient, because the world is changing, and at this point, it's really valuable to have that information so that we can adapt and prepare for it and reduce the damages.
According to the World Bank, floods and droughts have affected 3 billion people in the past 20 years. In the United States, they caused some of the biggest economic losses, according to drought.gov. Dr. Rodell explains that less carbon dioxide needs to be put into the atmosphere to slow down warming and stabilize temperatures. He's optimistic that renewable resources and new technologies will make this possible. Reporting for the South Florida Media Network, I'm Sophia, signing out from Washington, D.C.
Mixed reactions in our nation's capital this morning after a drilling project called Project Willow got the green light. As our network's Natalie LaRoche-Pietri reports, it was introduced by President Trump and approved by President Biden.
The approval has been met with both outrage over environmental impacts and celebration for jobs it will create. Many see it as a victory for Alaska's economy, while others see it as a betrayal from the president, who in the past has made ambitious promises to protect the environment. The oil drilling project by ConocoPhillips will build sites in the National Petroleum Reserve, which is federally owned. Among those hailing the approval are Alaska's bipartisan congressional delegation and a coalition of Alaska Native tribes. The nonprofit organization group Voice of the Arctic Inupiat released a statement thanking Biden for approving Willow, which will, quote, provide overwhelming benefits to Alaska Native communities, said the statement. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia also supported the drilling project.
Well, I'm very pleased the decision was finally made, and I applaud them for doing that.
When reports of Biden's consideration of the project came out, #StopWillow began trending on social media, and posters with the phrase hang around D.C. The Willow project was originally approved by former President Trump, and the Biden administration had little legal autonomy to cancel or notably alter the project. 3 of the 5 original sites were approved, and oil produced could release 9.2 million metric tons of carbon pollution yearly. Willow is expected to add 2,500 jobs during construction and 300 permanent jobs, according to the office of Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy, as well as $8 billion in state, local, and federal revenue. Reporting for the South Florida Media Network, I'm Natalie LaRoche-Pietri from Washington, D.C.
The Heat about to hit the road, but first, Miami had a small piece of unfinished business against the Grizzlies.
That's Lilhead and Sosa's story.
It's important for women to be part of this because, one, climate change affects us disproportionately more.
Local women working to affect change, and they're working together. Stick around, we'll be right back.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Women's Workshop. We're taking a closer look at their effort here during Women's History Month. A program dedicated to fighting climate change and advocating for social justice coming to a close.
Reporter Kelly Sanchez has more on this story.
The Empowering Resilient Women program was hosted by the Clio Institute, a nonprofit organization led by women on a mission to combat the climate crisis across Florida. Since 2010, the Clio Institute has brought women together and allowed them to build strong relationships with, as well as empower one another through programs like these. This specific class of women, which have been meeting since November, held one last reunion at the historically black neighborhood Liberty City before their graduation.
So I came into the program really looking for community, like-minded people, definitely the knowledge in terms of environmental justice and climate change, and I wanted my herb garden. So I was able to achieve all three of those things. I met some fantastic people from all over Miami.
Neshma, the Clio Institute's Climate Resistance and Equity Manager, places special emphasis on learning by forming bonds.
It's important for women to be part of this because, one, climate change affects us disproportionately more than our other gendered counterparts. And then two, we are the ones that change community. We are the ones that continue culture. And so if we bring this information into our dissemination of culture, into our storytelling, into our community engagement, it's really going to see a ripple effect that's like unstoppable.
The cohort will be graduating at the end of this month and ready to tackle environmental issues. To get involved, visit thecleoinstitute.org. Reporting for South Florida Media Network, I'm Kelly Sanchez.
At home, the Miami Heat are keeping a playoff push intact after a commanding win over the Memphis Grizzlies. After a closely contested first quarter, Miami roared through the game and pulled away to a 12-point lead at halftime. Three of Miami's stars scored 20 or more points as Memphis could not bear the Heat's offense in the second half. The final score was Heat 138, Grizzlies 119. The Heat will face the Bulls in Chicago on Saturday at 8 p.m.
That is all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Julian Davis.
I'm Hawa Ezel. Get more news anytime at sfmn.fiu.edu.